Hello ladies and gentlemen, and thank you for joining me on this tour of the great and wonderful cell. You may not know this, but cells are very important. There are two types of cells, prokaryotic and eukaryotic. The prokaryotic cell is very simple. It makes up bacteria and archaea. Prokaryotic cells contain a cell membrane, cytoplasm, and have no nucleus, unlike the eukaryotic cells which do. Eukaryotic cells are much bigger than prokaryotic and also contain membrane-bound organelles that prokaryotic cells don't. As we take our trip inside the animal cell, which is eukaryotic cell, you will see many of these wonderful organelles that make up the cell. Before we look into the cell, we go into the cell membrane. The cell membrane helps maintain the cell shape and is also called the lipid bilayer. It consists of protein and lipids. Proteins help molecules move across the membrane by passive and active transport. Passive transport doesn't use energy and goes from high concentration to low. Active transport does use energy and goes from low concentration to high. We will start inside the nucleus, which contains the DNA and chromatin and is the most conspicuous organelle in the cell. There is a smaller unit in the nucleus that you will see in the middle, and that is called the nucleolus, which creates the ribosomes. Inside the nucleus, there is also chromatin, which condenses to chromosomes and consists of DNA and protein. You will see that there is a small layer enclosing the nucleus, and that is called the nuclear envelope. This separates the nucleus from the cytoplasm, which is the region consisting of cytosol and water, and that you will notice when we exit outside the nucleus. As we leave the nucleus, you will see right outside of it is the endoplasmic reticulum. You will notice that one side looks different from the other. There are two types of endoplasmic reticulum, or ER, and that is smooth and rough. The difference is that rough ER has ribosomes covering the outside layer, which gives it a rough look. The different ERs also perform different functions as well. Smooth ER, which has no ribosomes, synthesizes lipids, metabolizes carbohydrates, stores calcium ions, and detoxifies drugs. On the other side, you will notice that the rough ER is different. The rough ER channels proteins to vessels and is involved in membrane production. Vesicles are very important to the cell. One type, transport vesicles, carry what the endoplasmic reticulum produces to the Golgi apparatus. The Golgi apparatus is a flattened membranous sac and receives the ER product, modifies it, and produces certain molecules. It then produces lysosomes and secretory vessels, and those are then released. Golgi apparatus mainly works on packaging and transporting materials. Something that is about the same shape as a vesicle but bigger is the vacuole. The vacuole stores food and water, while the vesicle transports things. All around the cell there are free ribosomes, the same cell part as on the rough ER. Ribosomes can be either free or bound, and ribosomes are the site for protein synthesis and production. As you will see that there are small membrane sacs around the cell, and those are lysosomes. Lysosomes are like the stomach of the cell because they digest food and broken organelle parts. They do this because they contain digestive enzymes. Lysosomes are in animal cells while peroxisomes are in plant cells. They basically have the same function but are chemically different. Mitochondria are a double membrane cell part which is not part of the endomembrane system. Mitochondria are sites of cell respiration, which is a metabolic process that generates ATP from fats, sugars, and other fuels. Mitochondria, like chloroplasts in plant cells, have its own circular DNA. Cells have three main ways of moving: flagella, cilia, and pseudopodia. Cilia are small hair-like projections on the outside of the cell. Flagella are long whip-like projections that are on one end of the cell. Pseudopodia are temporary plasma membrane extensions that extend and contrast to move the cell. Grouped together in pairs around the cell are centrioles. They consist of microtubules in a 9+2 arrangement and are used in cell division. Microtubules are hollow tubes of proteins, which maintain cell shape while organelles move. Another cell part that maintains its shape is the cytoskeleton. The cytoskeleton is a network of protein fibers and is also involved in many forms of cell movement. The cytoskeleton is composed of three types of molecular structure: microtubules, microfilaments, and intermediates. Microtubules are the biggest and are hollow tubes. Microfilaments are two intertwined strands of actin and are the smallest. Intermediate filaments are fibers coiled and are medium. There are organelles in the animal cells that are not included in plant cells, and vice versa. Plant cells contain cell walls, which are more stable outer layer to give the cell its shape. They also contain chloroplast, which gives plants the green color. Both animal cells and plant cells contain a vacuole, but in plant cells the vacuole is much bigger. Animal cells contain lysosomes, while the plant cell's equivalent is peroxisomes, but are chemically different. There are three things that all cells go by, no matter if it's plant or animal cells. These three things are called the cell theory. The cell theory is that 1. Organisms are made up of cells, 2. All existing cells are produced by other living cells. And 3. Cells are the most basic unit of life. Thank you for joining us on a tour of the cell. Please come again on our next tour as we look into the plant cell. Peace out, Girl Scout!